In 2023, 1st of February, the UK made this pathway into teaching in England. They listed countries like Nigeria, Singapore, and South Africa, and they said we can get the QTS. They have bursaries as well. So if you need bursary, it's available for the shortage subject. They pay them up to £6,000. I was a qualified teacher from Nigeria, but then they see me as an unqualified teacher in the UK. I was just in a class. One of my students for the last academic year, they came looking for me and they were like, "Miss, we are taking you out." I was like, "What?" I felt like to cry.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lola Ademira. So welcome to today's podcast titled Getting into Teaching in the UK. So this is a place where we have honest and empowering conversations about career growth, about purpose, and about boldly speaking about your calling. So today's episode is a very special one, and especially for anyone considering a career that truly makes impact. So we're going to be talking about how to get into teaching. And as you all know, that teaching is more than a job. It's influence, it's leadership, and shaping the next generation. But many people don't know maybe where to start, maybe they need a degree, how to transition into it, what qualifications are required, and what is it really like in the classroom. So today, to help us unpack all of these wonderful questions, I'm joined by an incredible guest, someone who's experienced in teaching, in education, and also passionate about developing young minds. So we'll be discussing the pathways into getting into teaching, most especially the realities of this profession, the challenges, the rewards, and all the practical ways, the steps that you can take into teaching if you're considering this part. So I'll bring my guest in.
Hello, you okay?
All right. Hi. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. Can you please give a little bit of introduction about yourself?
Hello, my name is Sumilaya Banjo. I'm a teacher by profession. I teach mathematics and all sciences, physics, chemistry, and biology. I've had experience teaching in nursery, secondary, and as well college. I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you for joining us today. That's really incredible. So before we dive in, I want to start with like an icebreaker. If you weren't in teaching, what career do you think you would have chosen and why?
Well, if I'm not in education, I would have chosen metallurgical material engineering. And why is
Yeah.
because I'm interested in technical aspect of how materials function, and as well, I like to see how they are being developed.
Wow, that's interesting. Teaching is currently or often undervalued when young people are choosing their career options or when they're exploring their career options. I'd like to know, or my audience would like to probably know, what inspired you to become a teacher and what was your journey like into this profession?
So I've always been passionate about making difference in young people's life. And I would say education builds the foundation for everything else. And I wanted to be part of helping children develop their skills, confidence, and curiosity. I would say, interestingly, I didn't start out in teaching. I initially started with metallurgical material engineering. And during my first year, I realized that I enjoy teaching, you know. Then at that point, I said to myself that I think I'll have to switch career. Um, Another strong influence for me was my mom. She was a teacher. Growing up, I saw firsthand the dedication, patience, and care that goes into the profession. Um, I always saw the lasting impact a teacher can have,
Mm.
um, not just academically, but emotionally and
Yeah.
socially.
Wow, wow, that's incredible. I see there that for you, teaching is more like a calling And I like the parts where I can relate to where you said your mom was a teacher. My dad was a teacher too. So I know I know how passionate, how passionate and dedicated teachers can be. So I think for those that are watching us out there, I would like to give you like what's called like an icebreaker too, something to think about, something to reflect on. So, who was that teacher that changed your life, and what did they do that made them unforgettable? If you'd like to put that in the comment section, that would be great. All right, so let's dive in back into what we're discussing. So, for you, teaching is more like a calling because
Mm.
you discovered that you had passion for teaching and you went for it. So, and I think the more passionate you are, the more the result you will get. Generally, that's what I found out about teaching. So, if you think about our teachers in primary school, in secondary school, those you can differentiate those that were really passionate from those that were not passionate about it. So I think for me, I like the fact that teaching is a calling for you. And that takes me to my next question, really. That for those who wants to get into teaching, especially in the UK, what are the routes available for someone to become a teacher? And what are the qualifications that is required?
Well, before I start, I would like to say that, becoming a teacher in the UK, we have a license that we need to have as a teacher. And that's what we call the QTS, which is the Qualified Teaching Status. So we have several pathways, which is great because it makes the profession more accessible. So the first one I would say is the one we call PGC, is a common one. So the PGC is with QTS. So that usually take 1 year full time or 2 years part time. The tuition for the UK student is always up to 9,250. For international students, it might be more than that. Well, the good thing as well is that they have bursaries as well, which is I would say they are available for subjects like physics, chemistry, and biology, as well as maths. So I would advise if anyone is coming into teaching, since for the school fees, if you need bursary, is available for the shortage subjects which I've mentioned. Another option is school-based training, like school direct. We call it school direct or salary route. So with the salary route, you actually earn while you train. And then we have this we call Teach First as well, which is typically a 2 years employment based program where you can teach and complete your training. We have another one we call the apprenticeship route that leads to QTS as well. In this, you have to it's just like a training where you have to go in, they employ you, and then they start paying you salary at the same time. Uh, so we call the program PGTA, that's a postgraduate teaching apprenticeship. So how this work is that you are employed in a school, you know, it can be as qualified or unqualified teacher. Sometimes I say unqualified teacher, you might be a qualified teacher outside, like an international student. So they take that as an unqualified teacher in the UK. So if they take you in, all you then have to do is they will check you have your degree certificates, and as well the program runs around, I think, 10 to 12 full time if you're doing full time. Um, Another thing is that before you apply for this, sometimes you have to look for a school that can employ you before you apply for that program. So then another one is the assessment only QTS route. So this can take about 3 to 12 months. That is if you're already an experienced teacher. What do I mean by experienced teacher? Maybe you're already working in the UK and then you want to assess the QTS, you want to have that qualification. So, but then you have to be able to show them, you have to show references, they have to see, they have to ask from the school. to be sure that you're a qualified teacher. So this can take up to 12 months, and the cost is about 1,500 and 4,000 pounds, depending on the provider. Also, I would like to add that this route is available for international qualified teacher inside the UK and outside the UK, and those that are not qualified but they are interested in coming into teaching. Now, let me break this down. International teacher inside and outside of the UK do have a pathway into teaching, right? So if they are registered in their country, I remember when I came into the UK, I was a qualified teacher from Nigeria, but then they see me as an unqualified teacher in the UK. So at that point, I was planning to go into teaching and pay my school fees to get the route. But interestingly, I think 2023, 1st of February, the UK, they made this pathway into teaching in England. So what it is all about, they listed countries like Ghana, India, Jamaica, Nigeria, Singapore, and South Africa. And they said we can get the QTS only if we are qualified from back home. And then if we can show that we have been teaching like post qualification, that means we're already a qualified teacher back home. And then we've been teaching for a long time. And all they would do is for us to go online, apply, and then they will get in touch with the provider. For Nigeria, we have TRCN, so they have to go back and check with them, and then they come back to us to ask us to request for the professional standing, letter of professional standing from TRCN. So it's just like that, the ones that are regulating teaching in Nigeria. So as well for Ghana, for other countries I've mentioned so far. So I was able to, to benefit from this, I would say, because 2023 was about paying that school fees. It was even from the Titan training that I got to know that I can apply through that route, which I did, and I got the qualification after a year. It can take up to a year to have that QTS, but it's worth it because you don't have to stress making the payment. But I would remind us again, is this is for those that studied science and mathematics. When I say science, I mean biology, chemistry, physics, and mathematics. So with that, they are eligible.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much. That's really encouraging that there are different routes into teaching, and even those are even those are at home. I mean, international people can actually still get into teaching in the UK if they know the right steps to take. So that's really good. And that takes me to my next question. I think you've touched on that a bit. I would like to know your journey into teaching and how long did it take you to become a fully qualified teacher in the UK?
Well, I would say for me, in the UK, it took a year to be a qualified teacher. After applying, what I did was on the website, it stated there all the requirements. They've asked for English as a proficiency. So I have to contact my university back home for them to send this in. They will also ask for transcripts as well. They ask for INEC. So if you're having a qualification back home, you need to change that. We have INEC, or they call it NAREC as well. So you can give them your qualification from wherever you're coming from. They can change that for you. So it's equivalent. They will put that as they will try to change that and make it equivalent to their qualification in the UK. So that was the steps that I took, and at the end of the day, I waited for them to come back, and then at each stages, sometimes when they need something, they come back to me to say, can you provide us with this? which I did. I followed through all the steps. And then I would say it took me a year to get the qualification and to become a qualified teacher in the UK.
Wow, thank you very much. That's good. It's about 1 year. But those that are new into teaching, maybe they want to get into teaching. What is the? Can you explain again what the journey would be like? Would they have to do like PGCE, have a degree? What would be the journey?
It's not compulsory that you're a teacher, having that background. For instance, if you're in the UK and you've been teaching for so long, there's a route you can go into to become a teacher. And that was the one when I was explaining about, there was a route I mentioned about apprenticeship. But then I would say if you want to come into teaching, it is required that you have um, a background in education. So for those that maybe they don't have a background in education, they might have to do like a degree again, or they want to do like a PGC in education. Yeah. So the
Mm.
PGC route would be okay for them. So that would take them to, but it can take up to a year or 2 years for them to
Yeah. Like
become a teacher.
I attended a teaching event, get into teaching events, which I would advise everyone watching to stay, to the hand because I'll be sharing those links with you. So at that teaching event, there was something that was very specific that they mentioned, and it was around about the subjects that are currently in demand. Because when you go to these events, there'll be different schools trying to recruit people, there'll be different bodies trying to recruit people. I like to talk about the subjects that are currently in demand, and there was something that also came out at that event was around incentives and bursaries available for some particular subject. So I'd like you to touch on that very quickly.
All right. So, there are strong demand for maths, physics, chemistry, computing, design and technology, modern foreign languages, special educational needs, and primary education. So this area often comes with more job opportunities and financial incentives. So when I say financial incentives, so that means, like your question, we're trying to ask that is there bursary, is there something like truly yes, like the subjects I've mentioned, if that's the subject you're going in for, then you're rest assured that you're able to have that access to bursary.
Why are these subjects currently in demand? Is it because there are not enough teachers in these areas?
Yes, I would say if you have a look at physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics is a bit challenging. If you don't have a good foundation in all these subjects, then it's not a subject that anyone wants to dive into. So I would say that these subjects, if you have a look, even there was a time I was, looking through the graph to see the applications of teachers putting in for physics, chemistry, and biology. Biology is still all right because it's something practical. But when you talk about math, physics, and chemistry, some they find it very challenging. So if the foundation is not strong, I would even say I didn't mention that when I was talking about what really inspired me into becoming a teacher. When I was growing, I realized that, being that my mom was a teacher, so that foundation was there. So the foundation is not strong. There's no confidence for teacher to come out to say, I want to teach these subjects. And then I remember when I was switching my career to education, at that point, I got a course. They said integrated science. For me, I was like, what is integrated science? I didn't want to do it at that initial, stage. But I realized at the end of the day, I was being exposed to math. Don't forget, I said my interest was in engineering, so I have that background already. So I was being exposed to physics as a course, chemistry, maths, and biology, right? So with that was able to help me through. So imagine someone that is not having that strong foundation in math or in science, they won't be able to find their way into physics, chemistry, math, or biology. So I would say that might be a problem for why we are having, less people applying to physics, chemistry, and math.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you for that. So you must really be knowledgeable in these areas before you can say you want to teach them. Because I remember they were quite particular about in terms of did you have maths? Did you do maths as a degree? Did you do physics? So they were kind of like asking if that was your degree. So I think they were looking for people that can really teach this subject. I understand what you said about being knowledgeable in terms of you must know this topics or these subjects before you can actually teach them. So that takes me to my next question. What skills and mindsets are needed to succeed in teaching for those that want to get into teaching?
All right. For me, I would say that one need to have a strong communication skills,
Yeah.
and then you need to be very patient. Patient, right? And then empathy is also required, and good organization.
Yeah.
You need to be organized as a teacher, and then you also have to be adaptable, because every day can be different. As I'm going into school tomorrow, I don't know what I'm going to meet, you know. So the most importantly, you need to be focused, result oriented, and committed to growing in your career. So teaching is a profession where you are always learning. You can't stop learning, because you might be thinking this way, and then in the classroom, your student is asking, what is this? So I would say it is very important to be major thing is to be patient. Yeah, that's very
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Like I said, when I started that teaching is more than just a job because you have to keep learning, you have to keep developing yourself. Yeah. That's a good one. So you need communication skills. You have to be adaptable because I know teaching young people can be very challenging. I know it's not easy to be a teacher. So I think having the right skill and mindset is very important
yeah.
before going into it. So, what
Yeah.
does a typical day looks like for a teacher?
A typical day is structured but can be very dynamic. So it usually start with planning lessons and making sure that I have the right resources to meet my learning objectives. Sometimes I can say I'm up till midnight, sometimes trying to plan my lesson. Not just like I don't know what to put together, but you want to be sure that you're targeting what they need to learn when that exam is very close. How I will cite an example. For me, like I'm teaching GCSE math, and then you're planning for your students to pass, maths. So you need to look into the scheme. For instance, if I'm teaching a topic, maybe simultaneous equation, and then you want to go in to see questions they've asked so far. So then that was why I said you need to take time in planning that lesson, not just putting something in your slide, but take time to plan the lesson. Then another thing is that you support your students, you manage their behavior as well, and then keep them engaged. Because that vibe you put into teaching, you're going to get it back from them. Do you know what I mean? So if something is wrong, and I'm in the classroom, I'm talking maybe I'm not feeling too well. This student, they are going to get that vibe as well. So you have to put everything into it. I also spend time, marking. I'll say that I don't like marking, but then as a teacher, you must like to mark. Imagine for me, like this particular week, meant to mark 164 scripts one by one, not just a page, but then I have almost like 23 questions for each student, and I have to be able to give that back to them, because they will ask you uh, the week after to ask how am I progressing. So marking is part of it, and then giving feedback to them. There's also meeting like a staff briefing. I would also mention this: working as a covered supervisor, it's all right because the workload is not that much, it's lighter. So when I say cover supervisor, it means that they are just there to assist us. Sometimes if a teacher is not in, then someone will be called in. through the agency to come cover the class. So all they are doing is just follow what the teacher want them to do in the classroom. That is all. So they don't have that workload. So I'm just using that to encourage those that are coming into teaching. So it's not all about being a permanent teacher alone. If you want to also support, like cover, you just want to cover a teacher, that is allowed as well. You'll be paid for it. You are also a teacher and you're making impact as well.
Wow. I see that to be a teacher, you have to be intentional
Yes.
because your mood can also dictate the mood of your student. So I think your psychological well-being, your mental well-being is also very important. Well, that's a lot to me. But you mentioned something about marking of scripts and all that. I just want to ask, we're in the technology age. Are there no like technology tools, AI tools
To
that can help you
market.
hack? Yeah.
Well, right. So I would say yes, it is possible to do that. I've tried that. We have that platform to use, but then at the end of the day, you realize that if you're speaking to the student, you have to go into the computer to start reading. Well, what am I going to tell this person? What am I? It's very fast, but then sometimes when you're marking their steps, you want to be able to tell why is that student not able to. The AI, we are in this world of AI. You can just mark using AI, it's fine, but then you want to see at what point is that student not getting what they should get. So I would say hi is good, but then we still need that time to go one after the other to see their steps, to know where to help them, what they have to put right. The AI is going to do the job, but then not as perfect as what we want to see, because we want to
Okay.
be able to tell them at each point what they have to do right.
Okay, I see. Okay, I get what you're saying there. The personal touch, that's why you bring your personal touch to individual students, being able to being able to see their journey and being
Yeah.
able to help them through what you've discovered. Yeah, that's a good one. Is this the same way? Okay, let me just ask this question. I'm bringing this question in terms of what's the difference between being a teacher in Nigeria and being a teacher in UK in terms of the
Yeah.
approach, in terms of the intentionality, I know that, yeah.
Well, I will say back home, it is, if I need to compare the two, I would say, well, they are the same because we are teaching the same thing. Um, it's just that you still need to do, you still need to be, you still need to be that teacher that you are, putting all your effort and have the mindset that you want to impact life. Then back home, for lesson notes, you have to write and write using your hands to write lesson notes. Uh, Here, you have to just use your computer. Then I would also mention in terms of, some of the schools we have in Nigeria, you still have to use your marker board and all of that. But here, you might not even need to touch it's just the screen and then you're projecting. There are some schools like that in Nigeria as well, that they are already in that age. But then I would say that in terms of facilities, over here, they have the facilities.
Well, thank you for that. So yeah, you've mentioned the technological gap and, difference. But what I can also infer or pick up from what you said is that to be a great teacher, it has to be personal and it has to be intentional. It has to come from you. It has to be your own decision, really. Whether you want to be a great teacher or you want to be that teacher that people remember for nothing, or that teacher that people say, "Oh, that person really impacted my life." And I think I see from what you're saying and from your personality and the things you said is coming out that you're that type of teacher that you decided that you're going to impact lives and you're putting all your effort into that. So thank you for that.
Watching their confidence grow, that's another one for me. Seeing good results and even, meeting former students who are doing well in their career after being in your class. I'll cite an example. I was asked to go to a school and I saw a student of mine from Nigeria. in a class. I taught that student when he was in year one, and then I could not even recognize him. Like, oh, who could this be? And he mentioned, oh, remember me in Nigeria? And now it was a privilege for me to see him at that time. And then I can say, was it last month? I was just in a class. One of my students for that I had for the last academic year, they came looking for me and they were like, Miss, we are taking you out. I was like, what? It's just like, and they came in because that particular time I was teaching a class and they said they would like to have a, like, to discuss with the students in my class. And they came, I allowed them in and they advised them. They tried to tell them, this is what it is last year with us. And we all passed our exam. And that was really, for me, I felt like to cry, but then I feel like, part of the rewarding moment is always
Wow.
very, very interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Indeed.
That's wow. That's emotional.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I guess that's what we want to see or want to hear in terms of, payback, because I know it can be very challenging to teach kids, especially when they are in that teenage years. So yeah, very wonderful, rewarding moment. Well done. Okay. So in terms of advice for those who want to go into teaching, but they're doubting themselves, especially for those who want to teach in the UK. Maybe they were not born here. There's accent issue. There's that doubt that, oh, will they understand me? Will they be able to hear me?
Oh my God.
So,
I think
yeah.
I'll be able to give my own experience, like
Okay.
for me, I would say give it a chance. Um, One thing I used to tell people, we don't have a standard accent. We're all speaking English. Sometimes I try to listen well, then as well, you have to listen to me, right? So sometimes in class, when I'm teaching my students, I used to say to them, um, at the beginning can be challenging, like I said. I was in a class and a student was like, oh, miss, can you repeat that? And then I said to them, I'm here to teach you maths. If you pay attention and listen to what I have to teach you, you understand me because I'm not speaking another language. I'm speaking English. What I used to say to my students in the class when I come out, just like if I'm meeting them for the first time, I say, "Hi, guys, I'm your math teacher. So I would like you not to capitalize on the accent. If you listen very well, you're gonna hear me, and then I'm gonna be teaching you math. And at the end of the day, it's like you are able to get them at that point. So I would say give it a chance. Teaching can feel challenging at first, but passion and dedication will carry you through. You don't have to feel completely ready before you start because you go along the way. Believe in yourself. Seek support. Remember that you can truly make a difference in students' life. You know. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. It's good that you're able to share your story, and I think I agree with you. And it's not just for teachers alone, even in other fields. You just need to set expectation, like you said, set expectation, and also encourage them that yeah, if you listen, you will hear me.
I always say to them that guess what? You are in your exam, right?
Yeah.
Writing. And one thing about maths, even as a teacher, if you're giving like a question you've not seen before in front of you, you need to think of, because one thing I've experienced with this new generation, they forget things easily. They're always on their phone. So they need that one thing to remember in that exam. So sometimes in my class, I try as much in my planning. There must be something like a game or something for them to laugh at. Then I say to them, remember me in the exam when you're having this topic, something like that is coming out. So that's how you get them at the end of the day. So to me, I see whether you're coming from transiting from Nigeria, from anywhere in the country, you can fit in into the system. So far you are passionate about what you're doing. So far you have
Yeah.
that, zeal, that passion, then you can go for it.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with you that yeah, you just have to be intentional and you have to overcome that fear. There's nothing like they can't hear you. It's just what you said to yourself. And so the next question will be, what are the financial impacts if I want to go into teaching? What are the financial impacts?
So, in terms of financial impact, I would say that it's worth it at the end of the day. So, if you pick the subjects in demand, like maths and all the sciences, math or any of the sciences, you're good. Look into that. You're not sure you want to pay the full, you want to make the full payment for that QTS. One thing you're rest assured with at the end of the day, you realize that there is a provision that they have in place for teachers in that shortage subjects. They have the eligibility. They pay them up to £6,000. It depends on that area you're working in. If you're teaching up to a particular hours, you get up to 6,000. If you're working less, but I'm sure from 2,000 to 6,000, and then at the end they are able to claim it for 5 years, right? And what they are doing is to keep them in that particular area because they know that teachers are in demand of these subjects. So another thing I would like to mention is that you cannot receive these incentives if you don't have your QTS. If you are in the process of getting it, if you're still training to get your QTS, you might not be able to get the incentives. So another thing about it is that if you have your QTS and you're outside the UK, you cannot get the incentives because you are not working in an eligible school in the UK. So you might be in a school in the UK that they are not able to assess that. So, like I would mention, I'll say for you to receive it, you have to have your QTS, you have to be working in a school that is eligible. So then
Okay.
it is very important for us. So at the end of the day, you can put back the money that you have used to put in for your program, and it's worth it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So at the end of the day, you get the money back. And just
Yeah,
also
you
maybe
get
say that there are other subjects too that you can go into. They may not have incentives and bursaries, but I still want to believe there are other subjects, right? Like
So
you
for
can
the
choose.
incentives, they
Yeah.
have for the incentive, they have for maths, they have for sciences, they
Yeah.
even have for computing. They have for computing and uh
Yeah. Yeah.
mm,
Just to say that there are other subjects too that people can teach. It's not just science, right? There are
yes.
other, yeah, okay.
There
So,
are other subjects they can teach as well. Yes.
okay. For those that want to go into teaching, what are the career progression in teaching? Somebody is saying, I don't want to be a teacher forever. Are there career growth opportunities for people that want to study?
Yes, we have opportunities for progression in teaching. So teaching is empowering because it offers leadership opportunities and allow you to influence the next generation. There are many progression routes like moving into leadership, a pastoral role, or a specialist position. It also gives flexibility to pursue other interests, like building a strong professional identity and making a meaningful impact. Or you can even build your own school at the end of the day. You can leave the school. Maybe you're thinking of to retire, and you can just open your school. All you need is just read about it, the process, and at the end of the day, you can.
Yeah.
So you're retired, then you have something you can employ people to do for you. You just supervise it. So
Wow.
it is a
Okay.
good one. Yes.
Well, that's good. So there are lots of career opportunities there. And I think I like the one that you said. You can even, have your own school. You don't see a lot of that these days. So I think it's a good one to think about. So the other question I want to ask is, what will be your advice for parents as teachers who have seen students who know student in and out? What would be your advice to parents?
Oh, okay. So that question I'm going to answer it in two ways. I'll try to my advice for parents is that they should not leave the responsibility for the teachers alone. So they have to carry on from where we stop. So it's not about, because I can understand that this country is very demanding. So we have, jobs to catch up with, shifts. So we should try as much to balance it, because we are working for the future of these children. So it is very important for us to also um, give our time so that we can monitor their progress. With my little experience in schools in the UK, I realized that a lot's going on in schools. So we need the parent to carry on at home for us. So don't leave the job to the teachers to do alone. It is very important to follow through, to see where are they in their subjects, in each subject. And this would even give that parent rest at the end of the day. You're able to, you don't need to spend that much at the end, or looking for, or how would they get their grade at the end. So if that child is just in nursery or primary, it is still okay. You can start making, checking. And then if you're able to put that child through, you can monitor and try as much to help them in their homeworks. But then I would say, um, looking at the students, right, at a point, you might not be able to know what they are doing again. So sometimes it's important to register them in lessons, very important. Then also, if you're relying on the reports that the teachers are going to give in school, some of them, they won't come straight. In Nigeria, you have the opportunity to say, oh, my student is, oh, first position or second, or my child is first position, second position. Here, they're not going to tell you that. They might be saying something about a level or step, or where they are working at, what's their target grades, which you might not really understand. So the best thing is, give them that foundation, try to monitor their progress. Don't leave the job for the teachers alone. But then, if you feel the time is not there for you to monitor, you can look into lessons and then still follow through, because sometimes I would advise, it's not about lessons alone, it's about monitoring the progress. Even if you're going to register them in lessons, you have to still monitor what they are giving them in lessons, so that you don't waste your money on the lesson. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. That's a strong advice to parents to take notes. Teachers are doing their best, but we also need to support them. Thank you very much. So, what are the opportunities for those that have just migrated into UK in terms of teaching profession?
Well, even if they don't have the background for teaching, you know, they can get into teaching immediately if they want it. All they have to do is to register. So we have different agencies which they can apply to. So, and they can get themselves into classrooms immediately, because all they have to do for them is to do their DBS, and then they can go into teaching, and they can ask them to do their trainings as well for safeguarding and prevent. So it doesn't matter if you have that background in education, because looking at it, we have people migrating into the UK and then looking for job to do. I would say education is uh one of the career that you can get in quickly and get paid for it. So it doesn't matter, if your background is education or not. You can easily access education by registering with agency, and then they get you into teaching, and then you make your money. And then at the end of the day, if you plan to switch career, you can do that. So if you're a qualified teacher back home, and then you have your degrees in math, sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, I can go through it and check the eligibility, what they're asking for, so that you can get all this prepared to become a qualified teacher in the UK.
Wow, thank you. That's incredible. Thank you. As we wrap up this conversation, one thing is very clear, that teaching is not just a profession, it's a calling, really. It's a calling and it's responsibility. It's a powerful platform for you to impact lives. And we've learned that there isn't just one pathway into teaching. So whether you're a graduate, you're a career changer, or you're just discovering your passion, there are structured routes. There are qualification support system out there to help you step into the classroom with confidence. There is a getting into teaching event that happens every time, and I'll share the link with you just so you can see where they're happening, and you can also attend to ask questions. All the questions will be answered. We also have the reality that teaching requires, patience, resilience, and the heart to love and to want to impact others. And there are also rewarding moments, and it's also good to see that you're shaping lives, you're influencing the futures, you're being the reason why a child believes in themselves. That's absolutely fantastic. So if you've ever felt drawn to education, don't ignore that nudge. Research the pathways, speak to teachers, volunteer, explore the options. Sometimes the career that changes others is also the career that transforms you. Because according to our guests, you're also learning, you're growing, you're developing. You can't be a teacher and not learn every day. So it's a career that is worth exploring if you've got passion for it. So thank you to our amazing guests for sharing, insights, honesty, and practical guidance, to become a teacher. And thank you to everyone listening. And whether you're considering teaching, supporting someone who is, or simply learning something new today, thank you very much. And don't forget to subscribe and share with someone that this video might help. Until next time, choose impact, choose growth, walk boldly into your purpose.